1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. We are on episode 60. Big 60.
Yeah.
9 episodes away from episode 69. That's the big countdown right now.
We need to stop mentioning it. It's not going to be a special, Kaiser.
Okay, I'll stop after this episode. Maybe I'll mention it again on episode 68.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is going to be we're on segment 1, our topic segment. We've got 2 interesting topics today. Movie segment, media segment 2, and you guys watched a movie.
Yep.
But we did not
Let's say me and Alicia, not the audience at home.
Oh, yeah, that's true, yeah. I'm sure all of you out there have watched movies before.
If not, where the fuck have you been?
And I have no idea what we're doing for segment 3, but we'll figure it out.
Indeed.
But the first topic, and I thought about this because we were playing Amnesia again yesterday, and this time it was your turn to play it, and so I was just watching. And it's something we've talked about on that playthrough a bit, is, like, for whatever reason, like, watching scary movies, watching people play scary games, I have no problem with it. Like, I can sit there perfectly relaxed, the scares don't get me, I'm just like, okay, great. When I play the games, when I'm actually playing a horror game, it scares the ever-living crap out of me. Because if it's done right, like if it's like an atmospheric kind of game, and Amnesia does that very well, just the creepy sound effects, the decided lack of music in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and for reference, like, I'm definitely not good with horror. I was editing one of the Amnesia videos the other day. You don't know about this, Kaiser. And so I was recording the intro voice part where I'm like, last time on Amnesia, right? And I put that into the video, and I was playing the video. I was waiting for a different part of the content, and I forgot I put that in there. I hadn't adjusted the volume on it, so it was a little bit louder than normal. And I fucking jumped so hard my knees hit my desk. Like, just on the recording, the editing software. Holy crap. Yeah, jump scares, yikes.
Yeah, they don't... Sometimes they get to me. Honestly, I jump more when we're playing, like, a multiplayer, like, shooter game, like Splitgate, and somebody pops out of a portal next to me.
Yeah, it's the moments when it goes from complete quiet to BAM!
Yeah. Although, jump scares are kind of cheap, in my opinion.
They are, but also they get your adrenaline going, which is kind of, I mean, it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's part of the point. But I think the more effective ones are like the tension building stuff.
Yeah, well, that's what really hit me in the Amnesia episode yesterday, because we spent like the first half of it reading notes and just being in a creepy place, so my nerves were building and building and building and building.
Yeah. To the point
like
where you almost jumped when you almost jumped when... God damn it!
Right.
You almost jumped when you brushed against a curtain.
Yes. Well, that curtain made a very loud noise, and you yourself said it was kind of a fucking weird... Like... But yeah, no. So just very sinister, and it built up until it got to the point where a cripple in a chair was, like, incredibly scary to me.
It was terrifying.
Which, don't get me wrong, anyone who's watched... I was about to say Inception, not Inception. Played the game in the hospital. The green one, there's 2 games of it. You go into a Mount Massive hospital. I can't believe I remember the name of the hospital, but not the fucking game.
Well, what's the name of the hospital?
Mount Massive.
Oh, I have no idea.
Outlast.
Oh, Outlast, okay.
Anyone who's played Outlast or watched Outlast will know how creepy some people, like old people sitting in rickety chairs, are.
Yeah, for some reason wheelchairs are creepy. I don't know where.
Yeah, wheelchairs are very creepy because they, especially the old-fashioned ones, you know, like the wooden ones with the.
There was. Yeah. So I played the only BioShock game I played all the way through was BioShock Infinite, the one that's in the Cloud City instead of the underwater one. And I played that one because it was much more my like. I don't really actively go to play horror games. It's just not really my thing. I don't enjoy being constantly tense for like a half hour playing through a game. And that game was much more like rip-roaring adventure rather than horror. You know, it's running around, shooting, firing fireballs and stuff like that, flying around on zip lines. It's a lot of fun. Then out of nowhere, near the end of the game, there's this really, really creepy chapter set in an insane asylum with these crazy alarm bell-looking guys that run around, and you have to sneak past them. And near the end of the level, like, I'd managed to sneak successfully, not alert anyone, and get out of there. And then at the end of the level, there's a long hallway with a light at the end of it, and I'm creeping down it. There's no sign of enemies, and a empty wheelchair just rolls out from behind a pillar. And I remember the moment playing this. It was like 3 years ago, and I was like, no, fuck this. I took out the revolver and ran down the hallway shooting it in the air because I just couldn't take the tension.
Yeah, exactly. I remember playing, what was that? Hang on, it's literally under my desk. The Last of Us.
Oh, yeah.
Remember The Last of Us?
I played the original one, yeah.
Yeah, so this is the... Yeah, it is the original one. So I was given it on PS5, the remastered version. And don't get me wrong, I've seen it before, but it doesn't really...
I think you mean PS4.
Yeah.
PS5 is the one that looks like Seto Kaiba.
Oh, yeah, sorry, PS4, yeah. It looks like Seto Kaiba. That game, so because I'd seen it before, so I put it on, like, a really high level difficulty. In fact, probably the highest level difficulty, I think. And so I was really setting a challenge for myself, but it's also really scary. It's meant to be really scary. And so I was like conserving on bullets. I was doing everything like that. It was fucking easy, because a large part of the difficulty in that horror game, I think, they've overestimated how disabled people will be from fear.
Yeah. Whereas
I was just not at all scared by it, and I found it really fucking easy to get past. And all the parts... Sorry, go on.
No, finish your story.
All the parts where it's stealth segment, there are these clickers, I think they're called.
Yep.
Where they make noises, and they're blind, so you got to like really slowly creep past them, right? Whenever I got to one of those segments, I'd just sprint through it, and not because I was afraid, but because they were actually not as fast as you. So there was no point in creeping. I just had to run through the part, and that skips out massive chunks of the game time, and saves me a bunch of materials, because I'm not having to heal myself, and I'm not shitting myself in a corner, hiding behind a desk.
Yeah.
Like, boom.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Yeah, and that's why, like, Sorry, no, I keep interrupting you. You go on.
No, I was just going to say, you and I had very, very similar experiences with that game. Because I also beat the remastered version on PS4. Because it was one of those games that everyone said was a classic. And I did enjoy it, but I also had the same experience where I'm like, this isn't scary at all.
Well, I didn't even beat it in the end. I got bored. I got to the point where, you know the school gymnasium?
Yep.
It's a boss battle.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I defeated that, and I think I died once during the boss battle just because I didn't understand the mechanics. And that was the first time I died in the game. And that's like, what, 2/3 of the way through?
Yeah, it's
through?
pretty near the end.
Yeah, and so I was just like, this is a joke. This is the hardest difficulty, and I've died once 2/3 of the way through the game. I haven't even played this game before.
Yeah. It wasn't, like... I beat the game, like, not for the... Because the stealth mechanics were tedious, and there was ways to cheese around it, like you're talking about.
Yeah.
I kept playing the game and did eventually beat it, because I did enjoy the dynamic between the two main characters. And, like...
Yeah, no, it is. And that's why, like I said, I've watched it previously before, and I'm glad I had, because it comes over far better as a TV show than as a game.
Yeah, that's one of those types of games. But... Yeah, not really, didn't really feel like a horror game to me. That's why when you mentioned it, I was like, I guess that technically is a horror game.
Yeah, because there's zombies and there's like mold infesting people and...
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. But yeah, that's why whenever you're freaked out in a horror game, you just run.
Yeah.
It's the best way to do it.
I just mild spoiler for that amnesia part when it goes up. The cripple in the chair Blue's talking about. Blue was very tense, very afraid something was going to happen, and all I'll say is it's very surprising what does happen when he eventually, triggers
I think that counter method, though, that you suggested was brilliant. That calmed me right the fuck down.
Yes. I suggested cheesing the level, and so Blue piled a bunch of chairs on the guy's head. Oh my god. Yeah, we are having a lot of fun with. We're doing 2 playthroughs right now, Amnesia and A Way Out, and they're both co-op in their own. A Way Out's actually co-op, but Amnesia is we're just trading off who's playing, and it has been fun.
It has indeed.
But anyway,
which I'm enjoying more, to be honest. Anyway, go on. Yes.
Yeah. So that's really it. It's interesting
what was the original topic you brought up?
It was things. What scares you, like in movies and video games. For me, the topic was like, when I'm playing a game, that actually does make me tense, make me afraid. Like if the atmosphere is right and the game builds up the tension correctly. But when I'm watching a game or watching a movie that's like a horror movie, it doesn't really bother me. Like I had a friend growing up who loved horror movies and would occasionally drag me to them, and she'd be scared, tense, and whatever, and I'd just be laughing at the thing. Although, sorry, there was one movie that we actually legitimately walked out of the theater because it was so ridiculous. What was it? It was called like The Fog or The Mist or something. I want to say it was called The Fog.
Right.
And it was about a killer fog in Maine that was like eating people or something. I don't know. It was weird.
Right.
Got to be halfway through the movie. People, idiots are partying out on a boat in the harbor, and then the fog comes up and they all disappear, and they're investigating the boat the next day. The cops are out there, and everyone's gone. There's no sign of them, and they open the refrigerator, and then the black dude's in there hiding in the fucking refrigerator. And it just I don't know if it was the musical. It was like duh, and he's just right there, and he's like all frosty and just looking at him. He lived.
Hands you an ice cream, shuts the fridge.
I mean, he was the only one that lived, and because he was clever, he hid in the refrigerator. It was like, okay, the guy had his, but it was so ridiculous that we both busted out laughing and just left the theater. I was like, this is so stupid.
If a fridge can stop a nuclear bomb,
it can't.
Why can't it stop this kid?
We've
seen it. It works, Kaiser.
That for those that don't know, he's referencing the 4th Indiana Jones movie, Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, where survives a nuke by hiding in a fridge. He would have been pulped by the impact alone.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say also the fact that it flies up in the air miles away and then lands. Ouch! Well.
Are you telling me that your refrigerator doesn't have shock absorbers? All right, let's move on to the next topic. I think.
No, I was gonna say,
go on.
Horror-wise, it must be the problem with horror games. Horror games have no replayability because there's kind of 2 ways you can do horror. Either one. It's a creature chasing you. In which case, the moment the creature catches you, all mystery as to what happens evaporates. Because the creature catches you, he, gives you a big hug, and then you respawn, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
So, if he does catch me, he's just gonna hug me, and I'm gonna respawn. It's not scary.
Yeah.
And so that loses its tension. Equally, if you do it the other way, which is cutscene horror, which Outlast does both of these very well, but there are parts in Outlast where there's body horror, and that's oh shit, that's fucking shocking. Yeah. Same with Resident Evil, you get your fucking hand chopped off at the beginning in 7.
But the thing is, and you get used to it.
Yeah, because by the end, you have no hands and legs, and you're just a potato trying to walk around a mountain house. Sorry, that was a bit. But they even try in Resident Evil. They have the thing where you splash a bit of oil, on your stump, and your hand grows back. And you're like, wee! I've regrown my potato parts.
Well, I think this is something you can only use shock horror and gore so much before it gets tedious. This is not a horror game, but
running it.
Doom and Doom Eternal, the most recent remakes, the 2016 one and then Doom Eternal that came out last year. Both of those, they're very, very gory. Like you can do the execution kills, you chop people in half with a chain. They're demons, not people. But you stab something in the eye. Like by the time I beat those games, I was so jaded to the gore in those games. It was just I didn't even notice it. It was just like, oh, okay, yep.
Oh damn, gotta do that last part again.
Yeah. Oh, somebody put ketchup on the screen. Like it was. But so it's the same thing with horror games. I feel like that shock horror and gore can only work for so long, and the same is true for the atmospheric horror games because, yeah, you're going to be tense and like really, tense, scared, whatever, going through the first time because you don't know what's going to happen. But you play it again. You already know what's going to happen. It's like, okay, this is room, nothing happens in here. Oh, I move this shelf and that thing pops out of the wall. You know from the previous playthrough. So there really isn't much replay in horror games.
No, and if we weren't recording it, how I would probably handle horror games is that I would aim to try and die as quickly as possible, because the sooner that you die, the less tension there is built up. And so once it's gone, it's gone. It's like ripping off a Band-Aid, right? Yeah. Like, the first thing I'd do is like, oh, there's an alien monster. Let's go kiss. And then once you get that out of the way, it's like, okay. So I just have to dodge around him and to avoid that and get the next part.
This is why, like, whenever people try to... This is why, like, trying to put, like, moral messages and stuff in video games never works. Because people who play video games to any serious extent... Unless they're, like, really into, like, role-playing in the games or something like that, they're not going to follow... Like, they're going to look for the optimal solution. A perfect example of this is in Fallout 4 and Skyrim, where the... and Oblivion, I think. For lack of a better term, the younglings in the game.
They can't die.
Yeah, they're immortal. So in Skyrim, what you do is you bait a dragon to fight one of them, and then if the dragon's distracted with him, he can't die. So you can just wail on the dragon forever. It's
a little ethically unsound, but yeah,
but that's
it works.
The thing. Like, it's a video game. You know that's not. It's not a real person. So you're aiming for the optimal solution. So it's a really good way if you can get if you get dragons near a town, it's a really good way to. If you can get them to... It takes a little bit of doing, but, That's my point, is, like, they did that because they didn't want, like, videos of people going around and... doing that on YouTube or whatever. But because they did that, because they made these characters immortal, people did even worse things.
Wasn't there, like, a really fucked up child in Fallout 3? I vaguely remember, like, a really sinister... Or maybe I'm thinking of something else.
Well, in Skyrim, there's one that's part of the Dark Brotherhood, who's like a child vampire.
Yeah. Did you kill her? You can, because you kill the Dark Brotherhood in that. That's an option.
Yeah, I don't know what happens with that character. I never tried. The one time I found them, I actually played as the Dark Brotherhood. I actually joined their faction.
Clavicus Vile forms as one of the gods. The one with the dog?
Oh yeah, the Daedric, one of the Daedric gods, yeah.
He comes as a child. Clearly he knew the power of children in this world.
Oh my god. Oh!
just imagine, like, Mehrunes Dagon descending to Earth as a little girl.
This conversation has gone weird. These are all character. What we're talking about now. These are all god characters from the Elder Scrolls video games: Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim.
Molag Bal.
God. All right, let's move on.
Sorry. Yes. Okay. What was my topic? Oh yeah. Right. Okay. So, every nerd out there has come across the conundrum in the past where they're like, right, in half an hour, I've got to start working, or get food, or something like that.
Yeah.
How much gaming time can I fit in before I have to be responsible?
Yeah.
And that's the topic today is the games that have different match timers.
Yeah.
So Kaiser and I used to play a lot of CS:GO. If we were doing back in the day when you could only do 5v5s, a game could take an hour.
Yeah.
It wasn't uncommon for it to take an hour. I mean, then Wingman came along, and those matches were like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And that was like crack to us.
Well, it's because, so the issue, and we're mostly going to be talking about multiplayer games here, but
Yeah.
and the other perfect example is League of Legends versus Heroes of the Storm. Those are both
Yep.
5-player MOBA games.
More current thing.
And again, the it's a night and day difference in the match length. Yeah, CS:GO. First of all, they're 16 round matches, right? Well, no, it's best of. It can be as much as 31.
First to 16.
First to 16. So you could have 31 rounds, and that can take and the rounds are like 5-ish minutes each, unless they go very quickly.
Yeah. Also, I don't know why 16. It seems like a really shit number. Go 10. I struggle to remember how long matches take because there are so many different games out there with random fucking numbers you got to get to.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a clue why they decided on that, but anyway, again, annoyingly long. League of Legends was the same way. You'd play. The thing that really got to me on it is a single match could take. I think they average somewhere between 30 and 40 minutes apiece, but they could go over an hour, or they could end in 15 minutes if everyone decided to surrender. But that's just 15 minutes in game. You also spent another 5 minutes queuing for a game, and then another 5 minutes selecting characters and stuff like that. So it's a significant time investment. And the fact is that most of those games, if the game was going poorly, and they can start going poorly very early, you're stuck with it going poorly for at least another 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It's just, they're just hard to. Here's the Storm. By comparison, the matches, 15 minutes is a fairly long match in that game. The really long ones can go for almost a little over 20 minutes.
Say a fast game is 12 minutes.
Yeah.
I'd say the average game is about between 15 and 18, yeah. I've been in games where it's gone over 30, but those are very rare.
Yeah.
And also, it's not that you can't quit the game. You can quit the game, but because you're playing either ranked, you're playing online with other people, and the devs don't want people just quitting out halfway through because they're losing the game or they're feeling salty, so you get pretty bad penalties to your account if you do quit out midway, and you can't pause the game either because it's online.
Yeah, but that's a necessary thing with competitive online games because it ruins it for everyone else if one person has to go. Granted, if you got life events going on, something's going on outside, I don't know, your wife's giving birth, then quit the game because the punishment is just you can't play for another half hour or something like that.
Yeah,
or if you do it too much, then maybe you get banned for a couple days or a week or something like that.
Yeah, but I've as you know, been playing a lot of Final Fantasy, and I was halfway through a trial the other day, which is a big boss fight with 8 people. So if someone goes AFK, they're essentially wasting 7 people's time.
Yeah.
But my dad just turned up at the house, and I was like, "Oh crap, I'll be right back, guys." And then I come back 5 minutes later. 4 or 5 of them had already just quit because they couldn't be asked to wait for me. And I felt shitty about that, but at the end of the day, it was okay, they made the decision.
But it's
and
it's not as long as it's not a common thing. One thing I took pride in, all my time playing Halo games on Xbox Live, I never quit a match, not one time.
No.
There were times I got disconnected because my internet shit the bed, but
oh yeah, that happens to everyone there.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it seems to be a thing that I never get. I always get disconnected when I'm doing something stupid and not important. It's very rare that I've been very lucky in that respect. That being said, you saw how fucking mad I got earlier this week when I rolled a 90. Oh,
gaming,
shit.
Yeah. They really do. You've found a good game when you can really get invested in it like that, and it's
yeah,
something went wrong. But
also, I should explain that kind of.
Yeah, sense. Go for it.
So, in Final Fantasy, there are these things called mounts, which is like horses and
Birds.
things that you ride to get around faster, and they look really cool.
Like the fat chocobo. Still my favorite one.
I mean, yeah, I guess. So, you get them by doing... They're quite hard to get. So, I was trying to get one by doing this thing called trial. A trial takes up to 1 hour to do, and there's 8 people there, and there's a small chance that once you've beaten that trial, that one will appear. One mount will appear. And everyone in the party, so all 8 people, get to basically put in their lot as to whether they want it or not. And so everyone who's put in their lot rolls a digital dice that is 1 through 100. And whatever number you get, whoever gets the highest number gets the item. Gets the mount, sorry.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly frustrating because you're working on not just 1% chance of something coming up, but 2. You're working on, first of all, whether it drops in the boss. Second of all, whether you get it with the dice roll. And what I was I've been rolling really well recently. I got like a 70, and someone got an 80, and then the other day I rolled a 90, and I was like, "Fuck yes, Daddy's getting his mount." And then I look at the chat, and someone rolled a 98, and someone else rolled a 99. Now, frankly, if I had been that guy that rolled a 98, I would have been hysteric. I would have been so angry. And I was angry because I rolled a 90. But, hot damn. I was, this... So, to give some reference, I've been trying to get, like, one of these mounts for about a month.
Yeah.
Like, this is how much commitment you need to this shit.
Yeah, but sometimes those are... I mean... That's not something that's just true for games. It's true for like life in general. When you actually like put a lot of time and effort and work into something, and then you get it, it has more value.
Oh yeah, the feeling is amazing.
Yeah. So,
but yeah.
Oh my god,
it's been a while since a game has made me this like a non-online game, because online games you get happy and sad moments in every game. But having an technically it is online. It is
a multiplayer game. I was curious where you're going with that.
But, I mean, it's not like, you didn't get a 10 kill streak, because anyone can fucking get a 10 kill streak. It's just about shooting people at the right time in the right place. But, like, putting work into something, like, building up and up and up and up, and then finally getting something, it's a different experience, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah, and they do a good job, like, building that feeling up.
Anyway, I didn't mean to sidetrack us onto Final Fantasy again.
No, it's fine. It's relevant to the topic, though, because we're talking about time investment, and those instances you're talking about, yeah. But, yeah, in multiplayer games, I've found, as I have less and less time, I find myself less and less patient with games that take that long for one match. Splitgate's been amazing. That
Splitgate, well...
It's a first-person shooter we've been playing, and that game... Like, an average match is, like, maybe 8 minutes.
You say that. But... we love to play Takedown, right?
Yeah.
And there have been matches of Takedown where single parts of that match, like, first round part...
Yeah.
...has taken 10 minutes.
True.
And we forget that it's even the first round. We're on, like, round 6, right? No. We're on the first part still.
That is true. Takedown does take a while, but it's broken up into chunks, like they're independent matches. It's not one match that is cumulatively going on for 40 minutes.
There is no round timer, and the fact that we can respawn means that it's a game mode that can potentially take an hour, although it never will.
Yeah, eventually one team is going to screw up.
Yeah.
I should explain the way that game mode works. It's a 3v3 match, 2 teams of 3, and every time somebody on the team dies, the collective timer for when you can come back and keep playing keeps going up. And it goes up even faster if 2 people die at once. But if you take down a couple people on the enemy team, then your timers go down and their timers go up. person wins the round, or a team wins the round, when the entire enemy team is waiting to respawn all at once. So once you've simultaneously taken down all three, so it gets progressively easier to take down all three people at once, but it also, if your team is dying a lot, then it gets progressively harder to keep everyone alive at once.
Yeah, and so you get rounds where literally you wipe the whole team really luckily in the first, 15 seconds of the match. Or alternatively, we've had matches where, like I said, it's gone for 10 minutes where neither team could quite get that advantage.
Yeah. Very fun game.
It is, yeah. That's the current game that we're on anyway.
Quite a bit, yeah.
See where we are in a month.
Honestly, that game is the perfect work night game for me, because I can just, log out of my work laptop. It doesn't take a whole lot of it's not very very stressful. I can just sit there, turn on the controller, and just
Maybe for you it's not.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I get ridiculous amounts of server issues for whatever reason.
I was so laid back last night when we were playing. We were playing. It was a fairly intense game, but I had my chair reclined. I was just sitting back, and it was good. Anyway. Yeah,
Kaiser was actually telling a nice little story, and I was so angry I interrupted and I just swore loudly down the microphone. It's not fun because you love playing the game, but it's when it's not optimized properly.
Well, connection issues are always that's always going to be a problem with these games.
I'd rather have just been shot in the head by an enemy, because then I'm like, alright, fair enough, the guy did well. Instead, I'm literally immobilized. I can't see what's happening in the game, and the guy is dancing around my body, teabagging me in game. It's I'd rather just see him doing it.
Instead, you're getting a slideshow of it.
Indeed, and maybe it was the streaming, because I was streaming it at the time, but it happens even when I'm not streaming it, so it's
yeah.
I don't know. But Minion Masters.
That was another game.
That was a really fun game for me. It's kind of a card game mixed with... It's like a... way I play it's a 2v2.
Yeah. It's like a tower defense card game.
Yeah.
Tug of War?
I wouldn't say tower defense because that's more balloonsy.
More Tug of War then?
Yeah, a Tug of War is a very good way of putting it. There was a spree of games around that time that came out that are all basically the same thing. But Minion Masters is quite a nice polished one. And the matches will take about 7 minutes.
I'm just thinking back, I first played that game in Switzerland.
Right, were you on one of your
orders? I was on a work trip, and you and Mass were online, and I logged in, and I was you were talking up this new game, and I was like, all right, downloaded it on the hotel internet connection. It was perfect because I could play it on my laptop from the hotel room.
Yeah. And if you did get disconnected, it's okay, 7 minutes of my life gone, that's fine.
Yeah. At most. Some of the matches were only 2 minutes long.
Yeah, if you obliterated the enemy and they weren't paying attention, then boom. Me and Adam had a lot of fun with that. There's a lot of different strategies, and it wasn't overly complex, which was the most important thing. Yeah. It's like Yu-Gi-Oh! I used to love Yu-Gi-Oh! And then so many cards came out that I didn't understand.
Well, yeah, you had to read about 10 paragraphs on the card, and
I couldn't be asked to keep playing, and it was burning a hole in my pocket anyway, to be fair, Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah.
Alright, I think we've exhausted this, unless there's anything else you have to say. We've come to the end of the segment. Anything?
Nope, I am ready to talk about films.
Alright, cool. Alright, this is going to be the end of segment 1 of the TMCJ podcast. Thank you all for listening, and you will hear us again momentarily for segment 2. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. We are on segment 2, our media segment, and while we didn't do movie night this week, Blue did go out to see a movie.
So, yes, I say go out to watch a movie. We were totally just sat in bed watching it. Me and Alicia, we were wanting to watch a Disney film, and it was between Soul and what's that? Rio? No. It's not Rio. I was about to say Dawn of the Dead.
Ratatouille.
Day of the Dead.
I don't know that one.
There's a Mexican kid with a guitar.
Oh, yeah. Dia
Yeah,
de
it'll
los
be that and that.
Dia de los Muertos.
Yes. But at least you'd already seen that. So we watched Soul. And Soul is about a musician, a teacher of jazz or soul music, who he finally catches a break. He's been wanting to have like a big go around the country playing music, the dream of a great musician.
Yeah.
But instead he's had to make do with like teaching kids how to play at a local school.
So can I just quickly say that this is sounding very much like the opening to Breaking Bad? You know, a guy who had much greater ambitions. He was going to be a famous chemist and bring his ideas to the world, but he's now stuck teaching kids chemistry in high school. I'm not
branched
saying
off a bit from that pretty soon, but yeah.
I'm not saying that this guy becomes a crime lord, but that's what happened in Breaking Bad. So I'm just saying that the intro is very similar. Go on.
Yeah. So he finally catches his break when one of the pupils that he used to teach is like, teach, we're down a member, can you come and play with us? Yeah. And there's this big famous star that he plays with, and she's like, you got the shit. Come back to the next one and we'll see if you perform this well on the night, we'll think about letting you into the band. And he's like skipping home that day. He's like, fuck yeah, I finally made the break that I needed. Falls down a manhole cover in the middle of the street and dies instantly.
Wait, he died?
Dies. Instantly.
That happens in Ghostbusters. No, that happens in the live-action Casper the Friendly Ghost movie.
I want you to keep doing this throughout the time that I'm telling the story, right?
Okay, just saying.
So he dies, and he wakes up on like this staircase, and there's a big bright light and a bunch of blue people walking towards it. And he's like, "Wait, what's happened?" Like, and they're like, "Oh, you're dead. We're going to heaven, or whatever the big bright light is, because they don't really know." I hope it's heaven though, because there's like a little old lady and a cripple walking up there. Can I say that on YouTube?
We've already said it 3 times. I think YouTube will probably get mad at us, but...
Oh, well, we're not being monetized anyway.
Yeah.
And so he's like, nah, fuck that shit, and he jumps off the staircase.
That happened in Dragon Ball Z.
Good. Keep on. And he gets, like, through this magical barrier that's obviously there to stop people, but he just jumps straight through it.
Mm-hmm.
And he lands in this, like, cushy, comfy, friendly land where there's these little children blue blobs, and there's this big circle in the middle of the land. And this is the place where children get born. So he's in, like, the nursery part before you go into the Earth, right? Before you inhabit the Earth.
Is he going to be reborn?
Just...
Okay, I'm sorry. Also, can I just...
That happened in Amnesia!
Can I just say that so far, like, I now get the pun of the title, you know, soul music,
yeah.
His soul.
It is a bit blunt.
Yeah.
And so he's walking around, and it's like this, what I'm going to call an auditor, and comes up to him and like, "Oh, you must be one of the mentors that are here to teach the children before they go to Earth." And so he's taken to this building where a bunch of other dead souls are, who are like masters in their craft to influence the next generation, right?
Mm.
That's their job before they're allowed to pass on to heaven. And so they each get buddied up with a soul. And the idea is that the children's souls, they do these... It's like a tutorial level where they've done like, alright, I've chopped the wood, now I know how to chop wood. I've done the fishing, except it's like... I learn that food is good. Like the things that every human knows without being told.
Yeah.
Like, I need to eat, I need to drink, I need to sleep.
Instincts.
And the last thing that they need is like a spark, which is what they're going to enjoy in life, basically. So these mentors go and they're like, "Man, I'm the greatest baker on the earth. Watch me make bread. You're inspired. You're going to be a baker in life. Birth him." Birth him.
Why did I hear that
in
Palpatine's voice?
he just grabs the first label he sees. Well, he's not even meant to be there, and so they're like, "Oh yes, this famous psychologist, Doctor blah, 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 I don't know," and he gets put with like the tough kid in the class who's been through this cycle like 20 times, and no one can inspire her.
What, is she like reincarnating or something, or do they just like not get to be born if they're not inspired?
Exactly, it hasn't been born because they're not inspired by anything. And so he's like, "Oh, I'll teach you jazz music," and she just fucking doesn't care about it.
This is a very optimistic view of humanity, because I can think of plenty of people that are born and uninspired.
Oh yeah, like, you don't get inspired by anything until you're, like, at least a teenager, I would say.
I get it, it's but kids' movie though, go on.
Yeah, so then she's like, my previous mentors were like Gandhi and Mother Teresa and like all these other amazing people, and it has like flashbacks of them going like, "Oh, fuck you, you do not understand. You're a horrible person, I hate you, child." Goes away. Like, why are you shitting on Gandhi and Mother Teresa? Actually, to be fair, I think Mother Teresa, it turns out, wasn't such a nice person or something. I've heard stories about that.
I don't know. There's stories about that with Gandhi too, but it's
oh, okay.
But again, they're human beings. Like the whole reason that they're famous and like they have such a positive legacy is because they affected positive changes in their lifetimes. They did like tons. Every human being is going to have a moment in their life where they do something stupid or shitty.
But these mentors have like one day to teach these children, and I don't think Gandhi would snap patience after one day. Like,
I doubt it. And well, the other thing is like one day. Like,
yeah, it's like a tiny amount of time. It's less than a day even. It's weird. Like, I expected them to just take them to a museum and be like, "Here's a great work of art. Now you're inspired. Fuck off, bye."
That's what it sounds like. This is a really shitty system.
She's like, "No, I'm not inspired," but she kind of feels bad for him because she finds out that he's actually not meant to be there, and he's actually led a really shitty fucking life.
Yeah.
And he wasn't able to do the great things that he wanted to do. So she takes him to this place. There's like a hole to another more like depressing dimension where all the people who are like on Earth still, and all the people who are being inspired on Earth at the time are like floating in the air, and they're like in the moment, and it's a magical thing. And just below them on the ground are the people who are on the Earth, and they're like so wrapped up in a single thing that it's like corrupted their minds. So there's like a dude who works on the stock exchange. He's just like mumbling through the world. And then these hippies on a pirate ship appear. Just give you a second to let that sink in. Who connected to this dimension through, hypnosis, trance, whatever. And they're like, "Oh, we can send you back to the real world." And so they send him back into the real world, but with the girl. And the girl ends up inhabiting his body, because he's in hospital, he's not fully dead, he's in a coma or something. So the girl inhabits his body, and he inhabits the body of a cat that was nearby. You look very confused. Are you struggling to make this comparison to a game or movie that you might have seen?
Oh, no, I can think of a couple off the top of my head. The cat thing, that happened in Ghost Stories, that anime. Girl inhabiting the guy's body, that's happened in a few movies that I probably shouldn't mention.
Right. Anyway, what are you confused by?
A, why was he up in, like, the other world if he wasn't actually dead? B, like, how did they get from so they went to the depression dimension, and then pirate hippies took them back to their dimension, but because they're hippies, they screwed up and put him in the cat's body. What happened to the cat's soul?
Well, that's the thing. The cat's soul appears on that staircase from the beginning. The cat just fucking goes to heaven. They just fucking murder the cat.
This is the kind of movie a fucking sociopath would make.
But I'll get back to it later.
I get it. They're trying to. It is an interesting story so far. Like it doesn't seem like it's retreading too many old grounds, despite my sarcastic comparisons to other movies.
Yeah. So the guy's like, "All right, you got to do we got to find a way back into our bodies, and we've also got to, make it through the day seeming like we're not a crazy person who's an unborn soul in my body, right?
Yeah, so is she, like, even capable of communicating with other people? Like,
she can communicate with the cat. Like, she understands what he's saying in the cat, but no one else can understand the cat, and everyone can understand her.
So she
can understand them.
So she just learns English by jumping into his body.
Yeah, I mean, as an unborn soul, she knew English.
Oh, okay.
There's definitely gaps in there. Whatever.
Yeah, I'm not assuming this is some kind of like hard sci-fi. All right, go on.
So she's like walking down the street, and in the nursery heaven place, right? There was no senses. You don't have any senses, apart from sight. And so, like, they even made a thing of like she slapped him in the heaven world and was like, "See, it doesn't hurt." So suddenly she's got all these senses, and she's like, "Oh." Gets really. It's in New York, so she gets really freaked out by the number of people. And she ends up hiding in like a corner, and he brings along a slice of pizza, and she's like, "Oh damn, that smells good." And so she's eating that, and she's like, "Okay." Starts enjoying the real world. So they do all these things, and she hears music, and she's like, "Fuck, that sounds amazing," because it's not her appreciating the music, it's his body and mind appreciating the music, and she's in there, and she's like, "Wow, that sounds really amazing." Do you get what I mean?
That happened in The Little Mermaid. Sort of. When she got went on land.
And, yeah, so, and then, like, right before they're going to transfer her back to heaven, because she doesn't want to go back there anymore, because she's enjoying her life. Or his life.
Oh.
And so she runs away, and there's an auditor who's like chasing them down because he realizes that one person hasn't gone to heaven when they should, and he manages to catch them and throws them into basically a death hole. And so they get taken back up to heaven, to the nursery.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Dude, I'm gonna put you back on the stairway to heaven." Wow, that's a sentence. And you, girl, you're staying here until you get no. And when they get back, she's suddenly got the spark. And the people are like, "Hold on, the mentor has to see her off to the real world." Which, okay,
she was inspired by...
Yeah, even though he wasn't meant to be there, he was her mentor, so he has to see her off. And they're pissed off with each other because he feels cheated out of his life, and she's like, even this mentor is just thinking about himself like all the ones before. Somehow... I can't remember what happens after that.
Some plot happens, and then...
They go back into the I think she runs away into the depression zone. He follows her and finds her walking along like one of the depressed people. And then he goes to look for her. She breaks through into the happy realm, but she's still one of the depressed monsters. And he makes amends and jumps into the birthing pool with her. And then on the way down, I think he just like fucking... Does he die still? Is he still dead? How does it end? Man, I'm totally blueballing you guys right now. This is...
I'm trying to think. There's so many different, like, the plot points you're going over right now are so familiar to me. I'm like, I know I've seen that somewhere else before.
Thing is, he wakes up in the real world at some point, and he's like, "I've got my body back," and they put on a performance, and it's amazing. And he walks out, and he's like, gets sad again. And I can't remember why.
Maybe she gave up her life to get him back to life or something like that.
Maybe. Wow, why is the end so forgettable? I remember so much about the beginning. Does he even die in the end? How have I forgotten this?
Well, I guess go watch the movie. This does actually sound like an interesting movie.
Yeah.
I
You
think
never see what heaven looks like, so maybe he doesn't die.
I legitimately... At first I thought this movie looked interesting. Oh, sorry. Go on.
So, for his efforts, they make him not dead. And so he goes back and he lives a good life, I think. And they cheat the person who was like tasked with tracking him down, they like the auditors sneakily like just change the maths a little bit so that it looks like it's fine.
That happens in A Christmas Carol.
God, clearly the ending was very not great if I'm forgetting it this bad.
I mean,
like it was a happy ending, I'm pretty sure.
It does sound like it just a happy... Because they lived happily ever after is a lot less interesting than all of the stuff that you talked about thus far. Like the whole like lore and world building, and then the character dynamic between the rebellious soul and this guy.
And the cat gets his soul back.
Oh, nice.
Even though it had gone to heaven. It had gone past the staircase into heaven. And he gets soul back.
Maybe the queue goes on longer than it looks.
Man, that must have been fucking awful. The cat's in heaven, it's got its fucking feet up, drinking, I was going to say milk, but they're lactose intolerant.
Most of them, yeah.
Eating kibble. Eating chicken.
So
and then it's like yoinked back into the life of an old lady looking after it in the real world.
It's not actually that cats are lactose intolerant. It's just that they only produce a very small amount of the enzyme needed to process lactose. Random piece of trivia for you. Some cats are completely lactose intolerant, but so like if you give them a ton of like milk or cream, they will get sick because they can't process all of it. But a little bit is fine for them.
Yeah, there you go. That's 2/3 of Soul.
Or what I wrote down here, breaking Casper's balls with ghost stories about the Little Mermaid at Christmas.
Is that what you're going to name the episode? It sounds like one of your episode names.
It honestly does. I miss doing those. That was a lot of fun, making those up.
Do you not still do that?
No, I've started just listing what we talk about. Like the key points in the title. Sometimes with a little bit of extra flair, but... Yeah, I stopped doing that.
So yeah, the whole I was gonna say rebirth thing, I don't know. It seems odd because they fudge a lot of I'd say facts, but we don't obviously know anything about before we were born. Like the whole for a start, what makes you a great person?
Yeah. It also
Go.
It's very optimistic, and it's also very deterministic. They're basically saying that, you know, your inspiration and your drive in life is determined before you're even born. Which, it's not a message that I like. I feel like people can grow and develop and find new inspirations throughout their life. Like, I find I find it really depressing to think that you're just born to do whatever you do.
Right, yeah. And I felt like they could have been a lot more subtle with the whole... They could have had, like, once the child is ready, the unborn spirit is ready, they walk through a door. No. They jump through a giant circle in the ground and fall through it. It's like, wow. Not being too subtle there, are you, game? Not game, film.
Yeah, well, and I'm just thinking, like, the number of people that are born, like, every second, that thing must have looked like a giant outflow pipe with just souls flowing down through it.
Well, I mean, it was fairly... There was, like, a decent crowd around it the whole time, and, like, every second or half a second, someone would jump down it.
Yeah.
And whenever he tried to jump down it, and for a start, when he did that at first, I was like, is he about to come out of a woman? But no, it TPs him back to the above ground if he doesn't have this pass thing.
Honestly, that's what I was thinking was going to happen when you first said that he went down to the nursery. I thought he was going to be reborn as a new person, and then he was as this new lease on life. He was going to achieve his dreams.
Yeah, not like a middle-aged, slightly overweight man coming out of. Sorry.
No, I don't. That's not what I was. That's a horror movie right there.
That really is. Sorry about that.
God. I mean, it sounds like a good movie, but I just...
I mean, what disappointed me, I think, aside from the ending being, I guess, forgettable, was that there really wasn't much music in it, and the music that was...
That surprises me.
It wasn't particularly rousing. Like, the soul music can be very upbeat and
I'm just
really get the blood going.
Think back to when we watched Princess and the Frog. Like, that movie had great music.
Yeah.
Like,
God, that Witch Doctor song.
Oh my god. I got friends on the other side.
Exactly.
I love that. Oh, I get tingles when I think of the opening to that song. That's such a good one.
It is. I didn't for a Disney production. I didn't think the music was on point.
Yeah, that's normally one of their big selling points. Like, God, Disney villains have some really good songs in a lot of their classic movies. Like, Be Prepared from The Lion King. Dark Fire. Yeah, that one. And then there's the one from... sorry, this is going to be us singing for a little bit. One from Lion King, the... Be Prepared.
The one I remember from Lion King is the Timon and Pumbaa.
Oh, yeah, well, that's...
Ain't no worries for the rest of your days.
It's problem-free.
And the music wasn't bad in this. I should say the music wasn't bad.
It just wasn't up to Disney par.
Exactly. Like, on most Disney songs, give me the tingles a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, they either make you emotional, or they make you, like, just fucking bouncing off the walls when you first hear them. Like, it really gives you that energy.
Yeah. But the reason...
This was...
It was just music.
Especially considering it's all about a music teacher and his wanting to become a legendary jazz player.
And that's what I'm surprised by. You'd think they'd have some, like, really good, like, jazz tracks in there. I don't know. And the reason, by the way, I didn't bring up Hakuna Matata, I was talking specifically about villains' songs. In Disney movies.
True. And Beauty and the Beast, obviously, the...
Oh, Gaston, yeah.
Yeah, although, I mean, he is a villain, but I don't think you consider him a villain.
He's not... He's an asshole. I'd consider him more an asshole than a villain. Although he does do some pretty underhanded stuff, like... like kidnapping Belle's father, and... I don't even really blame him for going after the Beast, because it's a small town, and you've got this thing that's a monster living right on your borders. You might be like, okay... I could sympathize with the thing that he did that's villainous is trying to force Belle to marry him, and also kidnapping her and her father and trying to get her father committed. Like, that was kind of fucked up. But, no, just the going after the Beast thing and the mob... It makes him look like a villain because you, as the viewer, has already had a chance to see the Beast and gotten to know that he's actually not a bad guy, and you know that, like... I mean, the Beast was a dick, which is how he became a Beast, but I'm just...
Yeah.
At that point in the movie, he's had a redemption arc. He's released Belle, and even if he stays a Beast forever, then Belle...
All of the characters, Belle and her father aside, are morally great. Even, like, the witch at the beginning that turned the Beast into the Beast. It's kind of a bitch. She
was. I mean, she was tricking the guy. She could have come up and been like, yo, I'm a wizard. Let me stay here tonight. But she just decided to arbitrarily test this guy.
Yeah. Honey-dicked him.
Yeah.
Well, the opposite, I guess.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite of that. Yeah.
God. Catfish, am I right?
When I was a lad, I ate 4 dozen eggs every morning to help me get large. Sorry.
I think you guys say laid for a second there for some reason. Anyway, that probably wouldn't help. Have you been watching anything this week?
Not really. I haven't really had time this week.
Have I talked about the end of Castlevania? I did that last week, right?
You did last week.
Okay.
I mean, I've been I watched a little bit. Oh no, I did watch more of Lucifer one night. So I'm about halfway through the 6th season, and
Well, don't talk about that just yet. If that's only a small, like, wait until there's a bit of content
just
for that.
yeah, no. There's well, I've only watched the first episode as of the last podcast. We have a couple minutes left on this, so I just want to say one thing.
Okay.
I have been enjoying the season so far. They've found kind of creative ways to make it. I speculated last week that they had nowhere to go because they already introduced and had God move on. Like, that's kind of most series that go into the supernatural stuff. Once you bring divinity into things, it gets a little you've peaked. But they've found ways to make it kind of interesting. There's a few like inner character moments. There are bits that made me laugh that I really enjoyed. The one complaint I have is around the midpoint in the series, there's one character who I've been looking forward to the big moment where this character, it's revealed to her what, that the fact that there are these divine beings and that, this guy actually is, the devil and whatnot. And it's handled in a very underwhelming way. It's just kind of at the end of the episode, she finds out, and at the beginning of the next episode, she's already cool with it. And it just it feels really lazy. I was looking forward to that a little bit more than I was expecting.
I've just been watching more One Piece, and there's nothing new about that.
No, what I have been rewatching stuff on Netflix and stuff. But...
Yeah, well, we still haven't started watching Terry Pratchett yet, me and Alicia. I mean, obviously I have, but I've spoken about that first episode before. So hopefully by next week... Well, I mean, it's Alicia's choice of movie night, so hopefully we'll have watched a movie. Maybe do that tonight.
Yeah.
Wait, no. It's Saturday night, isn't it?
Yeah.
She might be working. I don't know.
Well, if not tomorrow. I have D&D tomorrow afternoon. Sorry, this is just us talking about our schedule to fill out the last of segment 2. Actually, we went over on segment 1. Let's end segment 2 a little early rather than waffling. Then we can move on to 3.
Stuff. Right. And who the fuck knows what segment 3 will be? Look forward to it.
Probably some kind of a story game thing. Thinking of going back to that one where Blue gives me a topic or a word or a phrase, and I have to pull out a story from my memory that's associated with that, or constructing like a alt history kind of scenario. One or the other. We'll figure it out in the interim. In the meantime, let's go to the end of segment 2 of the TMCJ podcast. Thank you all for listening, and you'll hear us again momentarily for segment 3. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. We're on segment 3, our wild card segment, and this week we had 2 ideas, and rather than choose, we just chose both. So for the first half of this thing, we're going to be doing that game where I try to pull a story off the top of my head from a word or phrase that Blue gives me. We chat about it a little bit. If he has any questions about it, we can talk about it. And then for the second half, we're going to move on to the alternate history one, where Blue will give me a scenario, and I'll try to construct what I think would happen.
Okay, your first word to get a story from today. Starting off deep with the first word being nuts.
Nuts.
Yeah, peanuts, coconuts. Nuts.
Can't really think of anything too interesting with this one.
Maybe I started a little bit hard.
It's just they've been in...
I don't know, you've been around someone with like an allergic reaction and you're like fucking flicking them at them or something like an asshole.
I apparently have... I found out... This is completely uninteresting, but I found out that I apparently have a mild hazelnut allergy, which I just didn't know about. Like, Nutella...
Well, you had a lot of allergies. When you went to find out, you're like, I can't touch trees anymore.
Well, I knew that one. Like, I've always had bad tree allergies. But no, even like it was on the same level as cats. I had 2 cats. And so my allergies aren't that bad.
Right. But fish, I think you were pretty fucked on as well. Salmon. Specifically salmon.
Because I've had other fish since then. I've had like haddock. I've had shrimp. I've had oysters. I've had clams.
Had ook? What's ook, Kaiser?
Haddock. I've had haddock.
You've had ook.
I don't. That's not even a good joke.
It's not meant to be. Okay, right.
Yeah.
How about...
I don't really have anything interesting to say about nuts.
Dancing.
Uh, oh, at a work party, I ripped my suit pants dancing.
Oh yeah?
Cause like I really
Wait, front or back?
I shredded them. So like
Oh.
two things. One, it was a work Christmas party, and dance floor was going, and I really love to dance. I especially love to dance to like hip hop, R&B, that kind of stuff. And
I
so
like dancing with the cool kids because I'm so youthful.
well, no, so I was like, it's like I really was like getting low. I was doing a lot of moves. Come on, like I need to say that because that's the description of the way I was moving. I also do like a lot of like leg press and sprinting work, so I have fairly, let's say, muscular legs.
Thighs, yeah.
And so in doing so, like at one point, it just ripped, like it shredded it, like the front, the back, the whole like the whole suit pant legs were just gone. They were in tatters.
Yeah, I don't know how I wouldn't go for the risky moves while I was wearing a suit, but I certainly do. I do dance pretty fucking well when I do.
Yeah. Same.
I will say, once I was out for like a work thing, and so there was a bunch of other colleagues there. We went clubbing, and a friend of mine, Kate, as you know, she's a bit fucking wild. And I was wearing like one of my kind of workish shirts, like how I like work shirts. Yeah. Just found it comfortable. And she walked up to me on the dance floor and just ripped it open. Buttons went everywhere. I was kind of sad because I liked that shirt, but it was also fucking hilarious.
Oh my god.
And she was like, I'm sorry, I always wanted to do that. Like, fair enough.
The thing is, I kept wearing those suit pants for the rest of the night. Like, I didn't... Because I didn't have any other pants with me.
I see. Well, there you go. Right. Next one. Strange animals.
I mean, other than the fact that I didn't know narwhals existed until this podcast.
I mean, that is true. Like, you're like, that's a mythical being, Blue. What are you talking about?
I thought it was a fantasy creature. I didn't know a narwhal was real.
No, but like, owls, got anything?
Are owls really strange animals? I mean, I had...
Well, yeah, I when I say strange animals, I mean not a cat or a dog.
Yeah, I had all kinds of pets growing up. Like, I had... My first pet ever was a rabbit.
Oh, really?
Had a rabbit when I was very young. I think I was like...
Do you have any pictures? I love rabbits.
No, I was like 2 or 3 years old. If we had pictures, they were on like a Polaroid camera and in physical form.
Yeah.
Because that would have been like 1990. Then after the rabbit, I had... My next pet was when we'd moved into...
Did you have a snake at some point?
I had an iguana. I had 2 iguanas. And
wow, that's fucking awesome.
And I had a bunch of anoles, which are the tiny little green lizards that can turn brown. Like they go between green and brown depending on if they're in foliage or if they're on...
What's the like life expectancy of...
anoles? Ours lived... I
meant more the...
Oh, the iguana?
Yeah.
Iguanas can live for quite a long time. Unfortunately, our iguana got away. Like, he got away... He used to take him outside into sun and stuff, and I had him on a leash, but something spooked him and he just took off. And so I lost him. Back. Yeah, I didn't have it tied tight enough. There's snakes and stuff and coyotes and stuff around, so he probably... And it also is really cold in the winter. It's unfortunate, but... we also had a bunch of parakeets.
Holy crap.
And then we later got... our first normal pet was a dog, and it was a Shih Tzu that we had just found wandering. And then we got 2 cats.
You've been through the whole rigmarole.
Yeah, it took us a while to get to the standard pet. Oh, had a bunch of hamsters.
Oh, yeah, but hamsters just... Yeah. Very short lifespan.
Yeah, some of them are cool. But anyway, yeah, I went through... we had tons of animals growing up.
Yeah, jeez. I don't think I'd be able to handle that many animals when I was growing up. I was devastated when I lose one. Jeez.
Yeah.
But that is pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah. Tons of them.
Okay, next. The beach.
Okay. There's a couple different beach stories I could tell.
Okay.
Let me just put a little bit of thought into this. So, I actually, in my adult life, prefer to go to the beach in the fall. like when it's cooled
Okay.
off and it's kind of
There's less
deserted,
people.
a little bit foggy. It's the water's probably too cold to really go in there, or at least for any long period of time without like a wetsuit or something. But one of my college buddies, his family has a house up in Maine, and he's always like he's on the bottom of he had a lot of aunts and uncles, a lot of cousins, grandparents, and whatnot. So he's on the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to being able to reserve the house. And so we would go up there in the winter, not the winter, it was like November or October, when it was deserted and kind of cool. And hey, have I shown you that? I don't know, we just had a lot of fun up there. This really is just a nostalgic story for me. But you were talking about album covers earlier, because you were listening to the Beatles. Somebody took a picture of us when we were walking on the beach. There were 4 of us lined up. All of us were wearing denim. I was wearing a denim shirt with denim pants.
God.
And it was like the fog was rolling in, and it was just the deserted beach, and it was like, that looks like an album cover. I got to show it to you after this. It's pretty cool.
I mean, an album cover of maybe the YMCA.
Fuck off.
Okay, cool. Fuck, I had a really good one, and now okay, roughhousing.
Juan stabbed one of our friends with a katana.
Jesus, that's not roughhousing. That's murder.
It was an accident. So it was our. And to be fair, it was the other dude's fault. So Juan and I have the exact same birthday.
Yeah.
And it was our birthday, sophomore year of college. And when we had gone up to that trip up to Maine at that beach place, there was a store that sold like knives, swords, like boogie boards, surfboards.
Boogie boards.
I don't know what you'd call them, but
sorry, it's because you went from knives and swords to boogie board,
basically
and I was like, is that something different in my mind?
everything under the sun in terms of beach equipment, and then also knives and swords.
Weaponry.
Yeah, just a typical, small...
I'm just imagining like a paintball fight on surfboards now.
No, but so Juan bought a blue katana, I bought a red katana. And so on our birthday, this was months later, we're hanging out in the dorm room, and one of my friends gave me, as a joke, one of those little grabby arm things.
Yeah, list pickers.
Yeah, because, it's like, oh, so you can reach the high shelves.
Yeah.
It's like, not that short. But I still have it. It's actually kind of useful.
Can you reach the high shelves, Kaiser?
Yes, I can.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I suppose.
I'm 5'7".
There are shelves in my house that you would not be able to reach.
Yeah. Anyway, so one of my other friends was holding that, and then Juan, as a joke, he like drew the sword, and so they're both like facing off. And one of my other friends, as a joke, like went to swing at him with the thing, and Juan just had a reflex, stabbed forward, and he just hit him in the forearm, like enough to draw blood, but it was just like a flesh wound.
Yeah.
And there was this moment of silence, and then my friend just goes, "You fucking stabbed me!"
We can laugh about it in recompense because we know that nothing bad happened. But,
And
don't stab your friends.
Jesse was there, and he had a first aid kit ready to go.
Jesse is that guy, though.
Yeah.
Jesse is the one who's like the responsible one, who's
was-
like, fucking idiots.
He was so happy though at the moment, because he's like, I knew this was going to happen sooner or later. All the knives and swords in this house, like I've had this thing ready to go.
He really is Joe from the Digimon series.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
Sorry, Jesse. That's not a nice thing to say particularly, but like, I'm sorry, you are.
That was a fun night.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Monopoly. We might have had this one before, actually.
You might have done this one with Monopoly. So, back when I never really, like, we played Monopoly a bit when I was younger, but it was never really a big game that we'd play for. I mean, I play it with my parents and stuff. One of my favorite versions of it was one of my childhood friend, Emily. So we played a game of Monopoly where there was no rules, other than it was like Munchkin. We were just making up the rules as we went along, and we called it Monopoly.
Not familiar with Munchkin.
Oh, or Flux is another one where the rules are constantly changing. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
We just made up rules as we went along playing the game, and it ended up with like a tower of hotels in the center of the board and a drug empire run by one of the other pieces. It was a weird, it's a weird game, but it was just I love those kind of free-form thought kind of games.
Home-baked, yeah.
Yeah, where you just go like, there's no rules, just go with it and see what you make. Kind of like what we were doing with the world building thing, where we're working on that sci-fi world.
Yeah.
Where it's like you just blank canvas, let's make something.
Just put something on the page and see what sticks.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, next one. Experimental cooking. / really weird foods.
Yeah, so this one, I'm going to use a failed experiment because that's funnier. This was probably like 7 or 8 years ago now. I'd gotten out of college, and a couple of my friends were still in college, like they were in like a couple grades below me in high school.
Yeah.
So I'd only been out of college for like maybe a year or two at this point. I went to a house party at their apartment, and it was good fun. They were trying to do a blacklight thing, and of course, part of the party was to have all of the guests help them screw the blacklights into the wall, and it was a shit show. But it doesn't matter.
Wait, what with the blacklights?
They just blacklights. You know what blacklights are?
Yeah, like the stuff that shows whether someone's been jizzing themselves or not, basically. At a party, it's kind of dangerous.
It was going to be like a blacklight party, so like everyone was supposed to wear like, different combinations of white and black to like make them glow in the dark and stuff like that.
Right, okay. That sounds fun.
It was a lot of fun, but we had to put the lights up ahead of time. The way it relates to cooking is rather than order food, we were just going to go grocery shopping, get a bunch of food, and we were going to cook.
Right. Because grease shows up on blacklights, doesn't it?
I don't know. We were going to do... it might.
Okay.
It might. I've never tried. But the blacklights weren't in the kitchen.
Okay. Yeah, cooking with no lights on.
This...
just glowing bacon
one
in
of
the
the
frying
things
pan.
that we were going to make was baked macaroni and cheese. They didn't have any milk and didn't mention this at the grocery store. So somebody comes up with the brilliant idea to use Bailey's Irish cream instead of milk.
That sounds nice.
It was disgusting.
Probably was.
It was like only one person really enjoyed it, and they were pretty drunk. And everyone else was just like, I'm not going to eat this. We did make fried chicken, though. We made a lot of fried chicken.
Nice.
Now, the problem with this was they had a gas stove, and so we were doing it in a shallow pan with grease in there. And so I was the one handling that because I was like, A, I was one of the only people there that could cook properly, and B, I was like, half these people are way too drunk to be around an open flame. And what is it? That YouTube show that was about like the Canadian guys, the extreme like recipes they'd make, and they always had the Jack Daniels.
Not sure. I don't think I've seen it.
Oh God, what were they called? I used to watch them like all the time, and I haven't seen them in years.
So while you're thinking about that, I've got a fucking bone to pick with America.
Oh,
the fact that you motherfuckers put mac and cheese with like fucking everything, right?
Yeah, bacon mac and cheese.
That pisses me off. No, bacon mac and cheese, that's fine. Me and Alicia are down our favourite pub.
Yep.
On the menu they have like nachos with mac and cheese.
Yep, you can do that.
That's fucked up. No, sorry, no, don't do that. That's wrong. Pasta and nachos do not go on the same plate.
You gotta realize, it's cheese. We put cheese.
It's not the cheese that I had. Cheese and nachos go together. Pasta and cheese go together, but pasta and nachos do not go together. It's wrong. It's wrong.
There's a lot of other like abominations that you would.
I know.
Like.
I'm getting there.
Okay, go on.
Right. What's really fucked up about this place, though? So they put mac and cheese in burgers.
That just sounds pretty good.
That is horrible. No. That's unacceptable. That is fully unacceptable. Get the fuck out of here, America. We don't want this shit. Like, that's just wrong. Mac and cheese, if you're having it at home, that's the only time I'll ever have mac and cheese, by the way, because mac and cheese out, unless you're at, like, a pretty fucking nice place, it's going to be, like, plasticky cheese, the pasta. Imagine, like, getting, like, wet pasta, basically. That's kind of how I picture, or, like, it's just going to taste like fucking, just taste of weight.
Yeah.
Taste of fatness. Like, I do not there are times and places for mac and cheese. Mac and cheese with bacon, great. That's like a coming on near like a carbonara.
I can't really talk about it because like I grew up on basically just pasta dishes, mac and cheese, spaghetti and meatballs, like
So have I.
all that kind of stuff.
And I've done some horrific things during my college years where I didn't have enough food in the house, so I made some abysmal concoctions which I ate to get by.
My God.
But at a eating out place, you should not have macaroni cheese in a burger. Rant over.
Yeah.
Right, so should we go to the next one?
No, hold on. Let me finish that story. So whatever the show was, and you know what? I'm just gonna. Where's my? I don't know where my phone is.
All that time you didn't fucking look it up.
I could have. Yeah, you're right. I could have just looked it up. But give me a second. It was Epic Mealtime. That's what they were called. Epic Mealtime. Anyway, so this is like really popular at the time, and so one of my friends, a bit drunk, comes in, and because they would just add like Jack Daniel's whiskey to like random recipes. They made syrup out of Jack Daniel's whiskey and stuff like that. He comes in and he's like, "Oh, Jack Daniel's," and he just goes to try and pour it on the chicken in the hot frying pan with boiling oil over an open flame. I stopped him before he could do it, but I just like, are you fucking crazy? Anyway. That's it. We can move on now to the alternate history segment.
Exactly. All right. Are you ready for alternate history?
All right, let's go for it.
So the first one. You're a religious person.
Yep. Not as much as some.
You know quite well the story of Adam and Eve.
Yep.
How would the world have gone, do you think, if they hadn't taken the apple?
Well, it wouldn't have gone. Like literally the way the story goes is like Eden is supposed to be like basically the perfect garden where everything is just taken care of for them and they can just live their lives in happiness, you know, immortal in
Were they
harmony.
able to have children?
They were, but they only did after they took the apple.
Right. So there would the length of humanity have been the length of Adam and Eve?
No, they were immortal until they took the apple.
Oh, okay.
So they went like basically if you follow the story behind it, and I may be misremembering something from it because it's been years since I read it, but basically the idea is that by taking the apple and by violating that rule, and they suddenly became self-aware of not only their mortality but of their vulnerability, and so they had to leave this perfect garden where everything was kind of in harmony with each other. So basically the answer is the world wouldn't have happened.
Okay, but they also became aware of their nakedness and stuff like that.
That's what I mean when I say vulnerability. Yeah.
I see. So it wouldn't be just naked people walking around in 2020.
No, they'd still be in Eden is the way that story would have gone.
Gotcha. Okay, well, right, getting less philosophical. How about if instead of the laws of physics working as it does in the real world, you instead live in the digital world? Translate all of the countries and the politics and that kind of thing into a digital setting, a digital world where there are digital monsters.
So we're not talking about a Matrix sort of thing. We're talking about we're all living in a video game. With video game bits.
We live in a computer. Yeah.
Some people think we do that now.
Yeah. Oh, that is the Matrix thing. Instead of having instead of having the animals and wildlife we have in the real world, there's agamons and.
Well, now we're thinking about the universe of Pokemon, because that's because instead of normal animals, there's these giant monsters and dragons and stuff. I think it would definitely.
Except Russia is there.
Yeah. I don't know what to say to that. If you're asking this is a very, very broad thing.
Yeah.
So you're just saying our modern world, except there are actual monsters and dragons and things instead of the animals that we actually have. I think that there'd probably be a lot less inter-nation conflict and there'd be a lot more, like, people would be a lot more focused regionally. And I also think that
Do you think people would fight with the Digimon?
Yes. Oh God, yeah. I think that what would happen, like in the 18th century or 18th and 19th century, what people would do would be to like if there was they were very much in the attitude of trying to fix nature. So that the idea that mankind, because they had that, I think it was one of the World War II Germany, for the sake that one of the some Nazi thinker, he thought they wanted to like dam up the Strait of Gibraltar and drain the Mediterranean to make farmland, which would have been idiotic. They would have just made salt flats if they did that and destroyed Europe's climate. But they had that idea that they could fix nature, and they do this in other places too. Like in Australia, they introduced cane toads to try and get rid of like pests, and then the cane toads became a pest because they were suddenly like an apex predator.
But also, bear in mind, you can grow meat from farms.
What, like animals? Oh, you're
world,
really talking about like if we lived in the Digimon universe, particularly.
Yeah, that's what I said.
When you said digital world, I thought you just meant cyberspace.
Oh no, sorry, no, I meant specifically, the digital world from Digimon.
Okay, that does change things a little bit. I mean, if it's that one, then we'd be kind of semi-self-aware that we're in that kind of a world, and I think, oh man, you could like hack the world.
Oh, that's true. Well, yeah, God. But then the like hacking Digimon games are ones where people are outside of the digital world and they hack it. So how would you wouldn't really be able to hack it from inside?
But maybe they'd find a way. Like if you've got the nations of the world, and there's definitely going to be some kind of a top secret research group who's trying to figure out how to hack the world. Like you'd basically the
Russia.
No, think like around the Sahara, the countries that own big chunks of that hack the world to make it arable land or something like that. Find ways to hack the climate so that you
change the biomes.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that would be the focus of a lot of research.
And like every animal on the planet would be enslaved.
Yeah, or at least partnered with someone. You'd weaponized monsters. I think one of the big changes would probably be weapons tech in that world, because you'd be able to weaponize the environment by hacking like your neighbor's environment or by using these monsters.
But equally, then there's like a surrender culture instead. You wouldn't be killing the person whose monster you're fighting. Just the moment your monster goes down, you're like, right, I give up.
Yeah, if you want me to, like, this is going a little bit dark, but that's one of the big fears about using AI and drones in warfare, is that it becomes a lot easier. There's another degree of separation. So, like, you go back to, like, medieval and ancient times where you're fighting, like, a person right in front of you and you're hitting and stabbing them. It made warfare a lot more difficult, and it made morale a lot more important. Then you fast forward to you've got guns now. You can't actually see the person that well. You can still see it's a person over there, but it's more long range and more impersonal, and it becomes
long range ballistic missiles and stuff.
Yeah. And then you go a little bit further. Now you got machine guns, and now it's even more separation. Then now we've got missiles, like you were saying, bombs and drone strikes. So then you have AI and I feel like it'd be the same sort of thing. You've got these digital creatures fighting for you, and you just let them sort it out. And that I feel like that would make warfare a lot more common, actually.
Okay. And where do you think we would be in that?
Where would we in particular be?
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope I had some kind of a fire dragon or something like that. I'd probably be, given I was already tempted to join like the military in my own lifetime. I think I probably would have pursued, if not like a military career, like some kind of career that would have me in more close contact with the creatures, or with trying to modify the world and hack it and stuff like that. I'd definitely go into something like that.
I see.
And and you, I don't know, where do you think you would be in this?
Oh, I was just trying to think of that. I was like, well, would I be a farmer? Well, I probably wouldn't be a farmer. Shopkeeper, maybe? I don't know, I'm trying to think of the job roles in the Digimon, because obviously there aren't really jobs in the Digimon world. You'd have to only once you've brought humanity into the Digimon world would there be.
Maybe a breeder or a trainer.
In the ideal job for me, probably in there that I would want would be like one of the nursery people.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Because that'd be fucking awesome.
All the cute little bubble babies
hatching the eggs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not me personally hatching the eggs, but you know.
yeah. I could see that.
Yeah, the cute little fresh Digimon that you
playing with puppies.
Cool. Okay, a world where this is a lot of like more video gamey ones today.
I mean, this has been a very video game heavy episode in general.
Yeah, where you get everyone in the world has one trait from one random animal. But it has to be, it's an animal in the location where you live right now. So, for example, if you lived in Jamaica, you can be like part penguin or something.
I have a very negative mindset with all of these. So I think that in that world, you would have a lot more.
I'd be pretty fucked.
Yeah, there's not really too many.
There's no alphas in fucking England, that's for sure, because we killed them all.
Yeah, it's true. So I think there would be probably more of a rigid like caste system in a lot of the world.
Yeah.
There'd also be pushes to get into regions with more dangerous animals, so that you're unlike now where you're trying to get to like more economically viable safe places to have kids. Now I think it would be the opposite. You're trying to get to places where the kids have a better chance of being born with one of these random animal traits, and
the less well progressed countries would have the stronger militaries.
Yeah, well,
they'd have to live in harsher conditions, really.
And there'd be a viable reason for your country to. I think environmentalism would be a lot more important in that world, because part of your country's power and worth in the world is going to be whether or not you're able to have like these animals with like these heavily like alpha traits, whether they be intelligence or strength or the ability to fly or something like that.
And I'm sure there'd be like religions based around animals.
Yeah, that's true. Probably there'd be like
less hunting, because
more
they'd
like
be more
druids.
like seen as spiritual leaders. If your own animal, you can't kill your own animal, kind of thing.
Yeah, cults of different animals.
That's a thing, isn't it?
Druids.
No, but like it's a particular thing from a story where they can't kill their own animal or something. Maybe I'm just thinking of the Golden Compass.
Maybe. If you're talking about spirit animals, that was several Native American cultures had that sort of religious belief where they felt they had a connection to some animal in the wild.
Okay.
But yeah, I feel like that would definitely. I definitely feel that two things. Environmentalism would be much more of a thing because it's in the country's best interest to keep the best animals alive. And actually, maybe it would be the opposite. The interest would be to keep like the apex animals alive, and what would be seen as useless trait animals, they'd selectively thin or wipe out. Just so that like there's a better chance the children of the nation are going to be born with those like apex traits.
All right, one last one, I think, to wrap it up. Back in the 15th century, there's a new kind of tree discovered.
Okay.
Where this tree is harder than, like, iron, shall we say. And it burns for, like, 3 times the length of any other piece of wood. How would that affect us?
Where was it discovered? Give me like a location.
South Africa.
Okay, let me think about this.
For a start, every country would want to invade South Africa.
Well, right. But the thing is, it would be relatively unknown. In the 1400s, it would be relatively unknown because there were Carthaginian explorations that went as far as South Africa, and China went there at some point. But we're talking BC at that point. The Europeans had only just started exploring, so there was I want to say there was Portuguese outposts there, but I don't think they showed up until the 1500s. So
all the tools you'd be able to make with that.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking is I'm trying to remember if the native peoples of South Africa had steel, because they'd need something that would be capable of actually cutting into that tree, right? And then because if they were able to cut it and shape it, then
over time it would trees fall over. So I mean,
if it's that strong.
That's
a lot of the time they fall over.
Branches wouldn't be that strong, though.
They'd be thinner, and iron is fairly brittle. So if it had the same properties as iron, I mean, you could actually end up with it, like when you end up with the when the Europeans start to go out and explore the rest of the world.
Yeah.
You could end up with like a civilization on their level or beyond them in South Africa, because if they were able to harvest that material. And actually utilize it, you could make, pretty strong weapons and tools. They'd be brittle, but they'd be very strong.
You wouldn't need to make iron chips.
No, and well, and as a fuel source, as a fuel source, if it's able to burn hard and hot for that long, there's all kinds of applications for that. So you could end up with a advanced civilization that is more capable than the European explorers who find it when they actually get there. That's interesting. I want to give that more thought, because I want to see if the nations that lived in South Africa in the 1400s actually had steel or metalworking or something like that. Some way to, because even if they're able to harvest a little bit of it, then they could and shape it into some kind of a tool. Then they could use it to harvest more. It'd be like a diamond on diamond thing. Like you can only cut diamonds with other diamonds.
I mean, it would be theoretically lighter than iron, I guess. Although if it was that dense to be stronger than iron, then I guess it wouldn't be.
Well, it also would have to be pretty dense for it to burn for that long, because there's. Yeah,
Would it be able to float then?
No, something that dense wouldn't float.
Okay.
But they'd have other trees and stuff to if they were to use that wood to chop down other wood,
that's what I was posed just now. Could they make boats out of it? Because it'd be stronger than, a lot of modern day boats.
They'd be able to, but a lot of modern day boats are made out of steel and stuff like that. I don't know. It's a fascinating concept, and I'd really love to look more deeply into that, because that's interesting. But that's my best answer is if they were able to harvest it and utilize it, then I think there might be some fairly advanced civilizations down there for the Europeans to encounter when they get to South Africa.
I mean, if you're making samurai swords and things out of that,
it'd be difficult to make a sword out of it, because the reason that swords are made out of steel and not iron, because iron's harder than steel, but iron is very brittle. So if two iron swords clash, they're probably going to snap.
Also, you could set it on fire because it'll burn. Flaming sword.
That actually, you could use that for arrowheads, fire arrows.
Yeah, but fire arrows, I've heard, were not actually used that much in history because they weren't actually all that great.
Well, the reason they weren't that great in a lot of cases is because they were dipped in some kind of a substance or wrapped at the end and then lit on fire, and it fucked with the aerodynamics of the arrow.
Right.
But if you just made an actual arrowhead that was made out of that stuff, or you could shoot
I feel why can't you just have a normal fucking wooden arrowhead? Would it just burn too fast? And
it would have either burnt too fast, or it probably would have shattered.
Right.
And if it wouldn't have stuck into anything, because most wood is kind of soft. I don't know. I like this idea, but that's all I got for it.
Okay, there we go. Well, got a decent amount of time done.
Yeah, I like these little story games, but we'll have to. I think next time we should probably get back to Long Story Short or one of our other little.
Yeah, maybe I have Argon.
That's true. We haven't done that one in a while. I'd like to get back to that because we need to finish it. All right. Well, either way, this is going to be the episode. This is going to be the episode. This is going to be the end of episode 60 of the TMCJ podcast. Thank you all for listening, and you will hear us again next week.
No, I got nothing.